Lieutenant Commander Rachel Morrison sat on the bench at the Greyhound station in Norfolk, Virginia, staring at her phone through blurred vision. The screen showed the same message she'd read 50 times already. "Rachel, I'm sorry, I can't do this anymore. I've met someone else. The divorce papers will be waiting when you get back from deployment. Marcus." Christmas Eve. Of all the days for her world to collapse, it had to be Christmas Eve. She'd just returned from 9 months at sea, 9 months of missing her husband, dreaming of coming home, counting down the days until she could sleep in her own bed and wake up next to the man she'd loved for 7 years. Instead, she'd arrived at their house to find it empty. Furniture gone, his clothes gone, their photos taken down from the walls. Just a manila envelope on the kitchen counter with her name on it, and a post-it note with that devastating message. Rachel had lasted about 10 minutes in that hollow shell of a home before fleeing. She'd thrown some clothes in a bag, grabbed her car keys, and driven. No destination in mind. Just away. She'd ended up here, at the bus station, sitting in her dress whites because she hadn't thought to change. Around her, families laughed and hugged, reuniting for the holidays. Children squealed with excitement. Couples kissed. And Rachel Morrison, decorated naval officer, sat alone on a bench and tried not to fall apart in public. "Ma'am, are you okay?" Rachel quickly wiped her eyes and looked up. A little girl stood in front of her, maybe 5 or 6 years old, wearing a red velvet dress with white fur trim and a matching red knit hat. She held a paper cup of hot chocolate in her mittened hands and studied Rachel with serious blue eyes. "I'm fine, sweetheart," Rachel managed, her voice rough. "Thank you for asking." "You don't look fine, you look sad." The little girl tilted her head. "Are you crying because you're alone on Christmas?" Rachel's throat tightened. "Something like that." The girl's face crumpled with sympathy. She looked around, then back at Rachel, and her expression became determined. "Please don't cry, ma'am," she said earnestly. "You can borrow my dad." Rachel blinked. "What?" "My dad. You can borrow him. He's really good at making people feel better. And he's alone for Christmas too, kind of. I mean, he has me, but Mommy's in heaven. So he gets sad sometimes on holidays. Maybe you could both be less sad together." Before Rachel could respond, the girl turned and called out, "Daddy, Daddy, come here. I found someone who needs us." A man appeared from the direction of the ticket counter, carrying a backpack and 2 duffel bags. He was tall, lean, with shoulder-length brown hair tucked behind his ears and a few days' worth of beard scruff. He wore work boots, worn jeans, and a brown canvas jacket that had seen better days. "Lily, what did I tell you about bothering strangers?" he said, but his voice was gentle, amused rather than angry. "I'm not bothering. I'm helping." Lily pointed at Rachel. "This Navy lady is crying. She's alone on Christmas. She needs to borrow you." The man's eyes landed on Rachel, and she saw them widen slightly as he took in her uniform, her tears, her obvious distress. His expression shifted immediately from amusement to concern. "Lily, honey, I'm sure the officer is fine." "She's not fine," Lily insisted. "Look at her. She needs help." Rachel managed a weak laugh despite herself. "It's okay. Your daughter is very sweet. I'm just having a rough day." The man set down his bags and crouched next to Lily. "Lieutenant Commander," he said, reading her rank insignia, "I apologize for my daughter's directness. She has a big heart and no filter." "It's fine, really." Rachel wiped her eyes again. "She's right anyway. I am having a terrible Christmas." "Me too," Lily announced. "We're going to Grandma and Grandpa's house, but our bus got delayed because of the snow. So now we have to wait here for 4 more hours. It's boring." "Lily," the man said warnly. But the little girl wasn't done. She stepped closer to Rachel and thrust her hot chocolate forward. "Here, you can have this. Hot chocolate makes everything better. Daddy says so." Rachel looked at the offered cup, at this tiny girl in her Christmas dress trying to comfort a stranger, and felt something crack open in her chest. "Thank you," she whispered, accepting the cup. "That's very kind." "See, Daddy? She needs us." Lily looked up at her father with an expression that clearly said, "I told you so." The man sighed, but there was a smile tugging at his lips. He stood and extended his hand to Rachel. "I'm Ben Cooper, and this is my daughter Lily. She's right. We're stuck here for a while due to the delay. If you'd like some company, you're welcome to wait with us. No pressure, but—" He glanced at his daughter, then back at Rachel. "She's not wrong that nobody should be alone and crying on Christmas Eve." Rachel hesitated. Every instinct told her to decline politely, to maintain her dignity, to handle this crisis alone like she handled everything else. But then she looked at Lily's hopeful face, at Ben's kind eyes, at the hot chocolate warming her cold hands, and thought, why not? What do I have to lose? "Rachel Morrison," she said, shaking his hand, "and I would like some company. Thank you." Lily beamed. "Yay, Daddy, she's borrowing you. I'm a good helper." Ben laughed. "Yes, you are, Bug. Come on, let's sit down. Our bench is over there by the Christmas tree. Better view than here." They relocated to a bench with a better angle on the station's large, somewhat bedraggled Christmas tree. Ben bought 3 more hot chocolates and a bag of cookies from the station cafe. Lily chattered happily about their plans for Christmas, about her grandparents' house, about the presents she hoped Santa would bring. Rachel found herself relaxing despite everything. There was something soothing about Lily's innocent enthusiasm, about the way Ben gently guided the conversation, asking nothing intrusive but making it clear she was welcome to talk if she wanted to. "So," he said eventually, when Lily had run off to look at the decorations more closely, "rough deployment?" Rachel huffed a bitter laugh. "Rough homecoming." "Ah." Understanding flickered in his eyes. "Want to talk about it?" She shouldn't. She didn't know this man. But maybe that was exactly why it felt safe. "My husband left me," she said bluntly. "I got home from 9 months at sea today. He wasn't there. Our house was empty. He sent a text saying he met someone else and wants a divorce." Ben winced. "Jesus, I'm sorry." "On Christmas Eve." Rachel heard the edge of hysteria in her own voice. "Who does that on Christmas Eve?" "Someone who doesn't deserve you," Ben said quietly. Rachel looked at him sharply. He met her gaze steadily, and she saw no pity there, just understanding, compassion. "Lily mentioned your wife passed away," she said, deflecting. 3 years ago. Cancer." Ben's jaw tightened. Christmas was her favorite holiday. First couple years after it was hard. This year's a little better. Lily helps. Kids have a way of pulling you through even when you don't think you can move forward. "I'm sorry." "Me too." Ben took a sip of his hot chocolate. "For what it's worth, I know it doesn't feel like it now, but you'll get through this. Day by day, hour by hour if you have to. And eventually, you'll wake up and realize you're okay again." Rachel wanted to believe him. "How do you know?" "Because I did it. And because you're strong enough to serve your country, which means you're strong enough to survive a broken heart." Something about the certainty in his voice steadied her. Rachel took a shaky breath and nodded. Lily bounced back to them. "Daddy, can I give the Navy lady my present?" "What present, Bug?" "The ornament, the one Grandma sent for the tree. I want to give it to her so she can remember that Christmas isn't all bad." Ben looked torn. "Lily, Grandma made that for you." "But I have lots of ornaments, and she needs one." Lily was already digging in their backpack. She pulled out a small wrapped package and thrust it at Rachel. "Here, open it." Rachel looked helplessly at Ben, who just shrugged with a resigned smile. "There's no arguing with her when she's decided to help someone." Rachel carefully unwrapped the package. Inside was a delicate glass ornament, a lighthouse with a tiny ship nearby, all hand-painted in beautiful detail. "It's perfect for you," Lily said excitedly, "because you're in the Navy and you sail on ships, and lighthouses help ships find their way home. Grandma makes them special for everyone." Rachel felt tears prick her eyes again, but these were different, warmer. "Lily, I can't take this. It's yours. I'm borrowing you my dad and giving you my ornament," Lily said firmly. So you won't be alone and you'll remember that someone cares about you. That's what Christmas is about. Daddy says we should share good things with people who need them." Rachel looked at Ben, who had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. "I may have raised her to be a little too generous." "There's no such thing," Rachel said softly. She pulled Lily into a hug. "Thank you, sweetheart. This is the nicest thing anyone's done for me in a long time." Over the next 4 hours, as they waited for the delayed bus, Rachel found herself talking more freely than she had in years. Ben had an easy way about him, asking questions that made her think, sharing stories about his own life that made her laugh, somehow making her feel less alone without being intrusive. She learned he was a carpenter, that he'd built their house himself, that he volunteered at a youth center teaching woodworking, that he'd met his late wife in college, that they'd had 10 beautiful years together before cancer took her, that he tried every day to be the parent Lily deserved. "You're doing a great job," Rachel told him, watching Lily organize a group of other stranded children into some kind of elaborate game involving the Christmas tree. "She's remarkable." "She is," Ben agreed, his voice thick with pride. "She's the best thing her mother and I ever made." When their bus finally arrived at 11 p.m., Ben hesitated before boarding. "Listen," he said, "I know this is forward, but you shouldn't be alone tonight. I know you don't know us, but my parents' house isn't far from here. There's plenty of room. If you want, you'd be welcome to join us for Christmas." Rachel opened her mouth to decline automatically, but stopped. She thought about returning to that empty house, about spending Christmas alone with her thoughts and her pain and the ghost of her failed marriage. Then she looked at Lily, already waving at her from the bus window, at Ben, who'd spent hours talking with a stranger just to make sure she was okay, at the ornament carefully wrapped in her pocket. "I'd like that," she heard herself say, "if you're sure your parents won't mind a surprise guest." Ben's smile was bright enough to rival the Christmas lights. "They'll love it. My mom never met a stray she didn't want to feed. Fair warning, she's going to try to adopt you immediately." He was right. Ben's mother, Carol, took one look at Rachel and immediately pulled her into a hug, ushered her inside, and within 20 minutes had her set up in the guest room with borrowed pajamas and a plate of cookies. "Ben told me what happened," Carol said quietly. "That husband of yours is an idiot. You stay here as long as you need, dear. Christmas is for family, and anyone who needs one is family here." Rachel spent 3 days with the Coopers. She helped Carol bake cookies, played endless games with Lily, sat in Ben's father's workshop, listening to stories about woodworking and life. She attended Christmas Eve service at their small church, feeling strangely comforted by the familiar hymns. On Christmas morning, there was a present under the tree with her name on it, a hand-knit scarf from Carol and a set of woodworking tools from Ben's father. "In case you ever want to learn," he said with a wink. From Lily, there was a crayon drawing of the three of them at the bus station, with "The day we borrowed each other" written across the top in Carol's handwriting. And from Ben, a small wooden box carved with intricate designs of waves and ships. "For your ornament," he explained. "So it stays safe. And maybe, so you'll remember that the worst days can lead to something good." Rachel held the box, ran her fingers over the careful craftsmanship, and realized she was crying again. But these tears were different. "Thank you," she whispered. "All of you. I don't know what I would have done if Lily hadn't—" "If I hadn't borrowed you my dad," Lily supplied helpfully, making everyone laugh. 3 months later, Rachel's divorce was finalized. It hurt, but less than she'd expected. She'd found a good therapist, a better lawyer, and had started rebuilding her life on her own terms. She'd also stayed in touch with the Coopers, weekly video calls with Lily, who'd appointed herself Rachel's forever friend, text conversations with Ben about everything and nothing, an open invitation to visit any time. 6 months after Christmas, Rachel took leave and drove to Ben's town. She'd told herself it was just to visit, to thank them properly, to check in on Lily. But when Ben opened the door and his whole face lit up at the sight of her, when Lily shrieked with joy and launched herself into Rachel's arms, when Carol appeared from the kitchen already planning meals and activities for the visit, Rachel realized she'd been lying to herself. This wasn't just a visit. This was coming home. "I missed you," Ben said later when Lily was in bed and they were sitting on his porch watching fireflies. "I missed you too," Rachel admitted. "Lily's been planning your visit for weeks. She made a whole itinerary. It involves a lot of tea parties and dress-up." Rachel laughed. "I can handle that." They were quiet for a moment. Then Ben said, "I know the timing might be wrong. I know you're still recovering from everything, but I need you to know this, you being here, it feels right. Like something clicking into place." Rachel's heart stuttered. "For me too." "Yeah? Yeah." She reached for his hand. "That day at the bus station, I thought my life was over. I thought I'd lost everything. But Lily offered to loan me out like a library book." Rachel laughed through tears. "She saved me. You both did. You reminded me that there are still good people in the world, that it's okay to accept help, that endings can be beginnings." Ben squeezed her hand. "She has that effect on people. Though I'll admit this is the first time her borrowing me out has led to—" He gestured between them. "To what?" "To me falling in love with someone." Rachel's breath caught. It was too soon, probably, too fast. They barely knew each other. But then again, she'd learned that sometimes the most important connections happened in unexpected moments. On bus station benches, through children's wisdom, in the kindness of strangers who became family. "I love you too," she said. A year later, Rachel stood in Carol's backyard in her dress whites, holding a bouquet of lilies. Lily had insisted. Ben stood across from her in a suit, grinning like he couldn't quite believe his luck. Lily, as flower girl and self-appointed matchmaker, took her role very seriously. "I now pronounce you married," she announced, even though that was the minister's line. "Now you don't have to borrow Daddy anymore. You can keep him forever." The small gathering of family and friends laughed. Ben pulled Rachel close. "Forever sounds good," he murmured. "Forever sounds perfect," Rachel agreed. And as they kissed, she thought about that Christmas Eve 2 years ago. About sitting alone on a bench, believing her life was over. About a little girl in a red velvet dress who'd seen a stranger crying and decided to help. "You can borrow my dad." 5 simple words that had changed everything. Rachel had learned a lot in the Navy about duty, honor, and service, but it was a 6-year-old child who'd taught her the most important lesson of all. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let someone help you. And sometimes the most broken moments lead to the most beautiful beginnings. That night, after the reception, after Lily was asleep and they were alone in their new house, the one Ben had built for the 3 of them, Rachel hung the lighthouse ornament on their mantel in its special carved box. "Thank you," Ben said, coming up behind her and wrapping his arms around her waist. "For what?" "For saying yes when Lily offered to loan me out. For taking a chance on us. For becoming the family I didn't know we needed." Rachel leaned back against him. "I should be thanking you. And Lily, you saved my life that day." "We borrowed each other," Ben said, echoing Lily's drawing. "And then we decided to keep each other." "Forever," Rachel agreed. And as they stood there, watching the lighthouse ornament catch the light, Rachel thought about second chances and unexpected miracles and the strange, perfect way that life sometimes worked out. She'd lost a husband who didn't deserve her, but she'd gained a daughter who saw the world with kindness and hope, and a man who understood what it meant to build something beautiful from broken pieces. Not a bad trade at all. In the morning, Lily would climb into bed with them for Saturday morning pancakes, their weekend tradition. She'd chatter about school and friends and whatever new project had captured her imagination. And at some point, she'd inevitably remind them, "I told you borrowing was a good idea." She'd be right. Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness create the biggest ripples. Sometimes a child's wisdom holds more truth than all the adult logic in the world. And sometimes, when everything falls apart, all you need is someone to say, "Please don't cry, you can borrow my dad." And everything somehow turns out exactly as it should.